Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with the next update for my project Level Up. This project was created by me last year and it's basically a mix between a lot of different projects. I got inspiration from Pan palette, Pan in every palette, Pan Those Eyeshadows, No Pan Left Behind, and I just wanted to get a project where I could get use of my palette as a whole rather than just, you know, focus in on single eyeshadows and not using the rest of the palette. So what I decided to do with this project, if you're new, I'm just going to go over the rules briefly, otherwise check out my introduction if you want to say the full rules. But I created this project called Project Level Up where you use a palette. For the level 1 you use every single shade once and hit one pan. Level 2 you hit 2 pans and use every shade twice, and so on. So that's the main gist of the project. Currently I've been on level 3, so I had to hit 3 pans and use every single shadow 3 times. And the palette that I've been working on is my Norvina palette from Anastasia. I'm gonna jump into my progress, but before I do so, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you in the family. Let's jump into the video. So the palette, like I said, is my Norvina palette, and this is what it looked like when I introduced the palette. So you can see I had a couple pans in here already. It was quite a lot palette. I had a couple dips and again, like I said, a couple pans as well. So I was already loving how this palette was looking, but this is what my palette looks like today. That's a little overview there, and you will have the comparison pictures up here while I'm speaking about the palette. So let's just go through every shade in order. I have worked on this palette for 1 month now, so let's go over the progress. The first eyeshadow in the palette is Dreamer, which is this light kind of in a corner shadow. It's actually a little bit too deep for me to have that in a corner shade, but I use it that way anyway, just very lightly. I think it would be nice as an corner in summer for me when I'm a bit more tan, but it's a little bit dark right now. However, I used this one 3 times. Next to that we have Summer, which I've also used 3 times. This is a nice kind of bronzy kind of shadow. I've already had pan on both of these eyeshadows since before. Same with the next one, which is Wild Child, and again I have used this one 3 times. This is like it's one of the least impressive shimmers in this palette. It's more kind of satiny, I would say. I mean, it does definitely have shimmer to it, but it's not as impactful as I wish it was. But it's like a pink with a slight gold shift to it, and if I haven't mentioned, I used this one 3 times as well. The next eyeshadow on the top row is one of the exciting ones in the palette, which is the shadow Rose Gold. As you can see right here, I was able to hit pan on this eyeshadow, and it actually only took me 4 uses to hit pan on it because I had quite a big dip in it before. This eyeshadow is very, very, very impactful, and I would say Summer, Rose Gold and Dazzling are all very impactful shimmers in this palette, and I love them all. And with that pan I have my first pan for product level 3, so 2 more to go, but yeah, that is the first one I hit pan on. I think it was actually the first one as well out of the pans that I hit. Spoiler alert, but I mean, you can see the progress, so you can kind of see already. Next up we have the shade Celestial, and this is the first one in the palette so far that I don't have pan on, and this one looks like this. You can see I have a nice little dip in here now, and not massive, but I did use this one 3 times, and yeah, I'm happy with that. Next to that we have the shade Dazzling, which is another pan. I'm very, very excited about this one. It's actually the last pan that I hit in this palette, and it took me 6 additional uses to pan on it, which is again not too much, but I did have a little bit of a dip in this eyeshadow as well. Lastly, for the top row we have the shade Drama, which is this kind of really, really deep kind of blackened purple shadow, and this one I have also used 3 times, so that means I have hit my 3 uses on every single shadow on the top row. Moving on to the second row, we have all of the mattes, and the first one is Base, which is just a kind of easy setting shadow, and this one I have used 3 times. I already had pan on this one since before. Next to that we have the shade Soul, which is I think a lot of people's least favorite eyeshadow in the palette, and I felt the same way before. However, I actually really liked this eyeshadow when I used it. I think before when I've used this, I used it in my crease, and it doesn't really work that well for me in the crease. However, I use it on my outer corner this past month for the 3 uses that I have on it, so I have used it 3 times as well, and I really loved it as an outer corner shadow. I paired it a lot with Love, like I put Love in the crease and Soul on the outer corner, and I love that look, and then I kind of switched up the lid shades. But yeah, I really, really like that. So I have actually fallen in love with Soul a bit more now, so that is exciting, but I did again use this one 3 times. Next to that we have the shade Incense, which is kind of like a neutral brown shadow. It does have a little bit of like mauvey undertone, although it is still a warm brown. And that's kind of what I love about this palette, is like it's very romantic. Even though some of the shadows are a bit warmer, they still have that like romantic kind of soft mauvey undertone to them, which yeah, I really love. But I did use incense 3 times, so I have hit my goal on this one too. I love this eyeshadow. I love this is a really nice pink kind of eyeshadow. I use it in transition and it's beautiful. It's not too pink and it's not too kind of cool tone. It's somewhere in between. It's like, it is I would say a warm tone pink, but it's not again too pink, and it is very soft, and I really love this one. I did use one, I did already have pan on from before, but I used it 3 times to complete my 3 uses on it. Next up we have the shade Volatile, and as you can see I have a pan in this eyeshadow too. However, it does not count into this project, because right before rolling this palette into this project I actually included Volatile in my Pan Those Eyeshadows, and because of that I wanted to focus on hitting pan on it still, but I didn't want to use it as a pan in this project because I didn't want to double dip. So I do have a pan on it, and it actually took me exactly 3 additional uses on this eyeshadow since rolling into this project to hit pan. So I used it 3 additional times, and I have hit my goal on this, plus a little bonus pan outside of this project. The second to last eyeshadow we have is Eccentric, which is this shade over here. It definitely is the warmest eyeshadow in the palette, and I find it a bit hard to pair with some of the other shadows in here. I feel like you could do a really easy look though with like maybe Eccentric, Passion, and like one of these slightly more warmer shimmers like Summer or Rose Gold. But for me it's like kind of like the one shadow that is slightly outside of the rest of the palette, I would say. Like I don't love it with the rest of the shadows, but I did use it and I paired it with a lot of things like in other projects, so I did get my free use on this one too. Then for the last eyeshadow in this palette we have Passion, and as you can see I have another pan, which means that I have a total of 3 pans in the palette. This one was definitely the one that took the longest to hit pan on. It took 10 uses to hit pan, still not that bad at all, but it was definitely the longest out of the ones that I hit pan on in here. And it's actually funny, I hit pan on Passion and Dazzling in the same look. I did that look a couple of days ago. I think it was on Wednesday. I was redoing my makeup to go out after work, and I used both of those in a look, and I pan on them together. So I had pan on Passion, and then right after I hit pan on Dazzling again in the same look. So if you've been counting, I have 3 uses on every single shadow in here, apart from the ones that I hit pan on, which have a few more uses, but I do have 3 pans as well. So I have hit my level 3 goal on this one, and I will be rolling in a new palette. I'm just going to jump straight into rolling a new palette because I am so excited to do so. I have my product level up wheel right here with all of the palette. You can see the ones that I've already had in the project. I have kind of blacked out, they blacked out because I don't want to have them again this year at least. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick the palette. I do have 3 vetoes for the year if I want to. I'm gonna try not to use a veto, but for level 4 and level 5 I feel like I'm more inclined to use a veto if I get a really difficult palette rather than like the lower levels. So we'll see what happens. We'll just have to see what I roll, but I'm a bit nervous. I'm very excited though, and I'm just gonna go ahead and pick the palette. So let's see what I get. The Child, okay. That's fine. I used a bit of the Child in my look today. It's the first time I used the Child this year, like the palette. It's the Colourpop Mandalorian palette with the Child palette, and I actually used 2 shades from here today. I used like a what did I use? I used like the brown transition in my transition, and then in the corner shadow is from that palette today. And again, it's the first time I'm using that palette. I'm trying to reach for it, no pan left behind it anyway, and yeah, those 2 eyeshadows are the first ones I've used, but that's fine. I'm just have to look how many pans I have left to hit. I think it should definitely be more than 4, but I have to double check just because I already have quite a few pans in that palette. So let me get it quickly and I'll show you the palette. And it's right behind me because again I used it today. So okay, yeah, that's absolutely fine. I have currently 4 pans in this palette, so I have 5 pans left to possibly hit. So that is what the palette looks like. It's definitely going to be slightly harder because I've already hit pan on my favorite eyeshadows in here. Last year I had this in for level 1 and I hit pan on the 4s. But yeah, I'm happy to use this for level 4. It's not too big of a palette either, so it's going to be fine. And I have been using a lot of green looks recently, but I guess I have some more green to come, and that's fine. But looking at the palette, let me swatch it out first and then I'll talk you through which ones I think I will hit pan on. So here you have the swatches of the palette. This is what it looks like. You have the top 3 here, the middle one and the bottom ones right there. So yeah, that is what the palette looks like. Again, I already have 4 pans, so I have to hit 4 more, which means I will only have 1 eyeshadow that I won't hit pan on. And looking at the palette, I think I will definitely try to pan on Precious Cargo and Right Hand Mano. Those are the 2 that I'm definitely gonna do. I might try to pan on Sipping Soup as well because it is a shimmer. So those are 3. And then for the last eyeshadow, I'm gonna choose between Float Your Crib or just tattooing these 2 right here. I'm just gonna have to play around with it and see what I want to do. But yeah, that is the palette I'm going to work on for level 4, and I'm very excited about it. I love this palette. It's one of my favorites in my collection, so I'm excited to get some more use out of it. And this palette is going to look very, very loved after I complete level 4. But that is it for today, you guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I will have the playlist linked down below with everyone else who has joined in this project, because we're getting to quite a few now and I'm very excited to see more and more people join in. So make sure to check out the playlist, and I hope you're having a lovely day wherever you are, and I will catch you in my next one. Bye guys.